Steve Carrington. Julie Berber. Mayor Linda Combs. I will contact her and see if she's planning on joining. The last I heard from her this morning was she was planning on joining, so I will call her.
Joining physically or joining from home?
From home.
Oh, okay, okay.
And Mayor Edna DeVries?
Here.
We do have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. If you all stand, Alice, would you lead us in the pledge? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and also the consent agenda of the minutes from June 9th. First, please. Was it something the agenda that you about? I can get a motion for. Is there a second? Okay, yes, Councilwoman Valerius. To the business of 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, and so to go into new business. Okay, this is just the introduction, and we do have a public hearing scheduled in 2 weeks, but you still would like to discuss it tonight? Yeah. Okay. Is there a second to that amendment to the agenda? Discussion on the amendment to move item to new business, which would be I-2 then. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Councilmember Jill Valerius. Holmes. Steve Carrington. Councilmember Richard Betts. Councilmember Richard Betts. Councilmember Julie Berberick. Do you want to fold Linda in?
Pardon?
Do you want to fold Linda in on the motion?
Yeah. Deputy Mayor, we are, there's been a motion to approve the agenda, and then there's been an amendment to move item 1A, the introduction of ordinance number 20-007 to new business on page 2, which would be I-2, and the ordinance will have a public hearing in 2 weeks, but the amendment would like to have discussion on it this evening. So we're voting on the amendment to move it from the consent agenda to new business. Ordinance number 20-007 regarding the emergency order for the COVID-19 and lifting the single-use disposable plastic shopping bag store. Okay. I will vote yes. Okay. And I'll vote, and then I'll vote no. Okay, so the motion's carried. Further discussion on the agenda? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll on the
Yep.
motion as amended?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Joe Valerius?
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs?
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Berberich?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Linda Combs?
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the city manager's report. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Let me grab my notes here real quick.
Okay.
So we have numerous items. First is our COVID care funding and resolution 20-017. We believe we have a very good plan with that, and we'll discuss that more in detail during the committee of the whole. Gina and Brad has done an outstanding job working through this. A couple of things I'd like to add. We try to make it as simple and easy as possible, trying to make sure anybody who would be eligible qualify, and we think we have proper funding for that. So I'm very, very pleased with that. Also, too, in addition to us, we know the state is having some backups on getting this money out, but the federal government just went ahead, and the payroll protection plan, they've extended that to August 8th. And in Alaska, over 10,000 individual loans at $150,000 or less have been issued. A third of that went to the municipality of Anchorage, but the balance of the state got 2/3 of those funds, which pretty much corresponds, I think, generally with the population numbers. Item number 2, I'd like to report that on our water pollution control, we reported 3 violations, one on June 30th, one on July 1st, and one July 8th. And it was a violation of our ammonia level. We can have 3.6 milligrams per liter. During those times, we averaged approximately 22.2 milligrams per liter. August and July, or July and August, those numbers ramped really down low because of fish. The balance of the month is 18.5, and with our MBBR system, and I think you're all aware of that, little discs, we had no problem meeting that. So this is still under the consent decree, and we have been in numerous discussions with them trying to give us an opportunity to prove that our lagoons will meet this new limit. With that, we have spent the last month cleaning out the lagoons that haven't been cleaned for a while. I think you have heard the air quality wasn't the best, at least a few weeks ago. And that's what caused the ammonia level going up, and DEC was aware of that. So we're working on that. We are hopeful, but our decree was issued in 2016. So 2 things that we're doing, because we are under the gun, hoping for a little bit more grace from them, is a second blower is coming to you on July 28th for action. This will give us a backup blower because, I want to say SOL, but that's probably not the best term. If we lose the first blower, you know what I mean, especially in that area that we're dealing with. Also, too, we have a bonding resolution. So the challenge with this is we are going to be going to the vote, asking you to go to the voters to do a bond to cover the clarifiers. That is probably $8 to $9 million investment, which will have significant impact if we have to do that on our rates. We are looking at all grant opportunities. We'll be looking at all grant opportunities and loan opportunities, but because we're in a consent decree, they need to see that City of Palmer is on its game and they are not ignoring them. So essentially we're going to be taking this to the voters, saying we're trying to find a way not to do this, but we're going to ask you to give us approval to do this. So it's going to be a little wonky. We'll see how well we can do that if I can convince the City Council this is what we have to do, not what we want to do. Also, too, tonight we have AM 20052. It's our insurance coverage by our RISK group. They are a brokerage that goes out and shops for insurance and bids for our insurance. The price is up this year, and when we come there, I will explain. But we had two major areas where that the price is up. In total, it's $87,000 more this year. It's not anything to do with the city of Palmer, but what the market is, and I can explain. Past couple weeks, we have been dealing with concerned citizens on our bias, negative actions regarding certain people in the city of Palmer regarding our services. So the past 3 weeks, I've had numerous meetings in person for the minority groups and affected members of other groups. I've had a very good discussion. I've been asking when I hear complaints to sit down and talk with me. And some people are very willing. Some people, it's like, stay back, you're from the city of Palmer. But we'll work on that. So we've done some, but we need to do more. And here's what we're doing right now. So on Friday, I met with Alaska Family Services, and they volunteered to assist us with training, especially when it comes to the area of sexual assaults. We think it's very important. They have described to me that they have had a good relationship with the Palmer Police Department, but they're looking to strengthen that, and I think confidence in us has been shaken, and we're going to work on that. The other person I met with is Lisa Wade. She's a board member on the Mat-Su Health Foundation and other boards, and she has very much offered to work with us in assisting us to do a citizen review committee. We are looking at different options. One of my concerns is we need to get the city of Palmer folks on these boards and commissions. We have a lot of interest from outside those people we serve directly. We have made a decision to go with Trailient. It's a training company that will help us with our bias issues, discrimination, and sexual harassment. All city employees will be trained ongoing. So, an example, it must have been in late 80s, early 90s. We were required by the federal government and liability purposes to train for sexual harassment in the workplace. And in the first couple of years as a young manager, it was kind of hard to control the group of employees from the jokes and that sort of thing, because that was the environment. But you know, this day and age, it's not acceptable, and they occur, and they have occurred when I was at Mat-Su Borough. It was unacceptable, and it was just an automatic termination for those types of activities. I think we're going to be able to get there, where everybody understands what it is, the behavior is, and how our actions really affect people who are different than how we were raised and that sort of thing. So I'm pretty confident. Also, too, Captain April, Alaska State Troopers, which is housed next to us, has agreed to help us review the training material to assure the effectiveness of that. I have established an accountability partner with the minority community. So, in essence, I'm reporting once a month, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the curriculum we're using, please advise. And they have been very willing to do that. And then most important, we have Commander LaCroix here tonight on Resolution 20018. We have a grant for a cops hiring program, and the focus is going to be on helping with sexual assaults. We understand that we may not be up to snuff in that or not able to focus on that, and this grant will help us do so. And so we're asking for your approval tonight. Two more things. As you all know, Raven Air has declared bankruptcy. They have sold their assets, and they have increased the facility at our airport, and the lease has expired. So we are working through that with our attorneys, Mr. Sleeper and Mr. Gaddy, on this issue. We have talked to what we feel a high bidder for that property, and informing to them that I don't think the asset that you bought is really an asset that Raven now has. But we're working through that. We'll get a pretty good conversation, and it will give us an opportunity to work with this business, potentially to get a new customer in. So we're looking at this as a big opportunity for our airport in the city of Palmer. And I have a question, and then I have something I need to inform you. We will get
we will get, for the Matsu Borough, weighing in on different type of management plans and land use. So for instance, one tonight is Jonesville Public Use Area. This is an area where they want to put a shooting range in the Jonesville area and kind of monitor that. Does this come back to the city council, or is this, the manager handles this and I report back to you?
Is it within city limits?
No, it is outside the city of Palmer. The great city.
Jonesville is Sutton, right?
Jonesville's up in Sutton, yes.
Sutton.
Yes.
We've never had them before us.
Okay, so when they come to us, is it okay with the manager to review this and comment back that we're copacetic with this, or we have some concerns on how it might affect the city of Palmer?
Well, I think we just haven't responded at all. Deputy Mayor Combs, Richard and Councilman Best and Councilman Carrington, from your years of history, can you remember any of those things coming to us that are outside the city and especially that far away?
No, ma'am.
Councilman Best?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I had recollection of 3 different things that were outside of our area that was asked for our support for them to go forward in, and it was the Ski Hawk area. When they had started talking about developing that, they had asked for a letter of support, explaining how it could potentially benefit the city of Palmer in the economic stimulus, kind of be kind of a semi-gateway to that area. Also, the railroad spur out past Wasilla, where it spurs up going down towards the dock facilities for the Matsu. We were asked to give a letter of support for that, and also when they did the development of the, actually I'm thinking 2 more, the prison and also the port itself. That was when we gave kind of support where neighboring municipalities, the city of Wasilla, the borough was involved in it, and they asked for the city to give a letter of support when they were going towards funding and were trying to develop that kind of stuff. So in those aspects, we've been asked for letters of support, but in the developing of a single site, public use kind of thing like the shooting range, I'm trying to remember if the one off Mog Road and a letter of support was asked for on that one. I don't recall.
I don't read.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The Matsu Borough has mandatory area-wide land use authority, which was delegated to the city for planning within the city, late 80s, early 90s, as I recall. And as Councilmember Best indicated, certainly if something comes forward from the Matsu Borough and the city wants to comment, the question then becomes, is that an administrative comment or does it go through the process for a greater comment? We really don't have any authority to do anything aside from support or politically support or oppose a certain measure. So I think it probably depends on how important the issue is as to the process to employ to review it and provide a comment. But if it's outside the city jurisdiction, we do not have legal authority to really do anything aside from make a comment.
Any other comments from the council or thoughts?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
of course, the minute I said no, I started thinking of exactly what Councilman Richard Best was talking about. And I concur. In kind of a list of importance, obviously one of the largest ones was the one concerning the placement of the prison system. No, if it's something that would contribute to, economic development, I can see where we could be asked but we haven't been very often because most people just do keep that, that city boundary in mind. So, I would think that would be the best way to approach it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments? So council.
Madam Mayor, actually, I have a second bite at the apple, if I may, as well.
Sure.
And this kind of goes back to what I believe the manager, Mr. Moosey, is asking, is whether or not this would be a comment that would come from his office or from the council. And I would prefer that if we were to be making a comment on anything outside of our boundaries, that it most definitely would come before council for a concurrence of thought from the body. And generally, it would be whether we would support something or not comment at all, not really take a position on not or fighting against anything. But I would prefer that that is something, that this is a position that would come from the body, not something that the manager would be required to make a decision on his own.
Further comments, questions, instructions from the council? Ready? Does that give you enough, or do you want more clarification, like, put it in the packet and see what the council says, or how do you want to handle it?
I will make a recommendation, have it reviewed by city council. So to bring this all home, we have one in the city of Palmer.
Okay.
There's an applicant that would like to combine lots 19 and 20, block 4, Felton Addition Palmer Town Site into one lot. Those applicants happen to be John and Michelle Moosey. So I cannot weigh in on this, but you certainly can. And there is, when it comes inside the city, there is a previous plat review. So I'm informing you that my staff will be dealing this with absolutely no interference from me at all, and I will not be weighing in, but just praying that they make the right decision.
Okay. I think those have just gone before Planning and Zoning Commission, and I don't think we ever even see them, but thank you for filling this in. Thank you, sir. Anything else?
That is all I have till you need me later.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on the city manager's report? Yes, Councilmember.
Thank you. I just want to thank the city manager for his proactive work there with the different groups and getting the training for the staff started. It's refreshing to see action taken that quickly on the issue that we've been dealing with. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Any other comments, council members? Madam Clerk, your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have quite a lengthy verbal report tonight due to a lot that has occurred over the last week after the packet was published. It's been kind of active. I did receive nominating petition packets for the, first off, nominating petition packets for city council candidate filing will be available on our website here shortly, tomorrow. At the very latest, they should be on there now. Okay, so I will be testing out. I have to get a few hours of delay time to make sure the link got in process and updated. But they should be on there now for the 2020 packets. We will also begin starting to meet with people tomorrow who want to review the packet. But filing does start on Monday. Filing does start on Monday at 8 o'clock, and it closes on July 30th at 4 o'clock. So filing petition packets are next week and then the following week. We also have some information that will be going out to the council. The fire department has invited the council to attend one of their training. It will be on a Monday night in the month of August. We can have up to 3 council members and the mayor, you also were invited, to attend. And they are inviting you all to come and experience their training, kind of get some ins and outs, workings of what the fire department does. It's kind of overall, and you can expand on that. I'm just seeing the email originally in the invitation. But that's kind of their purpose, is they want to invite the council. You will be dressing down, like it's going to be an active participation. It's not going to be standing there and watching. So be prepared for that. If you want to attend, keep your eye open for the invitations. Those will be going out hopefully by end of the week. And just do a response to those. And then Heather will finish coordinating the rest of everything that needs to be done. I did get the referendum petition, and that was reviewed last week. Not enough signatures were obtained for the referendum petition, so he went out for a second set of signatures. That got turned in, and I now have 10 days to review the new set. So that is in review process with intention to come before the council at August 11th meeting at the latest. By code, the council, the referendums are different than initiative petitions. An initiative, the initiatives, the council has the ability to adopt something that's substantially similar. The code only addresses and says that for initiative petitions. It did not include referendum petitions, but I will be bringing this before the council just the same with a memo in the clerk's report and treat it just the same. So this one, to refresh everyone's memory, this referendum is to repeal the entire chapter of limiting the marijuana sales and everything within city limits. So at this point, applications were submitted. I have not touched those as they are sitting and resting, and they will get done within 10 days. He did turn in the initiative petition as well. That was turned in last week. I have 10 days to review it, just to go through process of review, see if signatures are qualified, not qualified. But he will get a letter stating that due to the council adopting the resolution for the ballot measure on the term limits to go, it will instantly be rejected, as we will not have competing ballot measures. So he's aware of that. He just wanted to get the steps and turn it in, and I'm like, okay. Continuing on, we will be officially decision made by the Division of Election. Received email today finally, and I have secured in contact with the Senior Center. Precinct 1175, the Senior Center, has been moved to the gym at the Matson Road.
So both precincts will be at the gym?
No, one precinct, just precinct 1175 will be at the gym, and 1170 will remain in the back of the assembly chambers. I don't know why DOE didn't combine them,
Okay, so
but they did.
Oh, that's gonna be nice and confusing, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, all right. So when you said the borough, I just thought.
I know.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
so early voting will stay at DOE in the lobby. Precinct 1170 will remain in the assembly chambers, working out the details of one way in, one way out, and making sure that we have distance for the voting. And then 1175 is moved to the gym, and obviously, there's plenty of space in there.
Right.
When I had talked to the Senior Center, a couple of things that we talked about was, in addition to the absentee by mail applications being dropped off at those locations, we're also looking at possibly doing what we call a pop-up early voting for the 2 apartment complexes that the Senior Center manages, so that those who cannot even go to early voting or really don't want to vote absentee by mail still have an option to cast their ballot. The Senior Center is not, from what I heard from the director, was that they are not planning on utilizing the shuttle system in October. They're going to continue to use the Meals on Wheels for those that aren't local. So we're just trying to, it's thought process right now. What can we do to help? We are getting a good response on our absentee by mail applications and notices to people. We will be sending out another stuffer in the utility bills in August. That is going to include the absentee by mail application, but it will include what the sample ballot will look like, basically. So the election worker position just closed, And interviews will be this week in hopes that someone can start very, very soon because we are just insanely inundated with a lot. And COVID-19 has just created a huge impact to our office and extra preparations for many, many things. So we're excited. We're all very excited for extra hours. We did receive an appeal application on a planning and zoning commission decision. It was for the U-Haul CUP. We have 30 days to prepare the record, secure a hearing officer, set up the hearing. That's all responsibility of the clerk's office. As you can see, there's just a lot going on that has deadlines. So we will be working on that. It's one more thing that code has been mandated of time. And then with the coronavirus and all that's happening, we are working through what we can here. But one of the things is limiting cluster gathering locations. So many of you haven't been in City Hall, but when the time comes that you are coming back, your mail boxes have now been removed. And all of your mail, anything that you receive, we will send to you in email. So it gets to you right away. Otherwise, it goes in your drawer. So we will be utilizing your drawers for your drop zone for information. Anything that's of urgence will obviously get to you, as we've always done here. All of your stuff is labeled, so as you guys are looking to come back, we're talking your drawer, your chairs, all that kind of stuff. As you guys are looking to come back here when it happens, we will be moving your drawers according to where you're sitting if you have a drawer opportunity. And so you will have that. There we are. And we're still very much waiting on a lot of the PPE to make it happen. Like, a lot of stuff is just not back order.
So we still don't have the plastic to do anything with.
No, we do not have the desk shields. We have them placed and they're in the process of getting constructed, but we don't know when they'll get shipped because they are coming from the lower 48 by the company and stuff up here. Do what we need. Their supply is not available, is what I was told. So they have to go to lower 48 to supply. So what we would do is space people out on the dais, have people on the floor, and stuff like that. And then when that does come, when the shields come, it will be one in front and two sides. And I want to say that, I mean, it's pretty narrow. It's definitely going to be very, very narrow in our space.
Right, so if somebody has a problem regarding that, then they should get in touch with you, so.
Yes.
It could be placed out, away from the diocese then.
Yes,
So,
excellent suggestion, yes.
Yeah.
Because we would still absolutely accommodate that.
Any questions or comments from any of the council to the city clerk regarding her report or anything else that you would like to know about? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, the next is my report. You have a written report on Deputy Mayor Holmes and I have talked regarding Palmer Pride. What we tentatively have scheduled now is that we will do a Facebook Live, just she and I. And if the weather's nice, it'll be done over in front of the depot. And well, I shouldn't say just she and I, because we'll have somebody that will be holding the camera or the tablet that we're doing it Facebook Live on. And then if the people that are nominated for the different awards, we will contact them ahead of time to see if they want to physically come and have us present the award to them. Justine and the city manager have done the extra step this year, so the certificates are going to be in a frame. So they'll show up very well on the Facebook Live, as well as it will be something that the people will have that will, make it a little bit more impressive. I have been in touch with Dr. Hill, who was my Golden Heart Award, and as of right now, he plans on coming in person. And Councilwoman Sabrina Combs, I think you had a nominee, right, for the Golden Heart? I think it was Burberry. Or was it Councilwoman Burberry? Was it? Okay. And I don't
Madam
know.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have nominated Betty Hanson here, and she came in two chambers. And then Councilwoman Valerius nominated Gary Wolf, who was not in town.
Right. And so, if both of you will get in touch, with your nominees to see, if they would prefer to just come to a council meeting when we present it, or if they want to come to the Facebook Live, with the deputy mayor and I, we can present it to them, or if they want to wait until this all, dies over and we can do our presentation in next February. So I'll leave that up to both of you to contact your nominees, and we'll go from there. Do you have any questions on that? Yeah, Councilwoman Brewery?
I'm sorry, so since Betty did already come to chamber, do you still want her to?
If she would like to have that done on Facebook Live, that would be fine.
Oh,
If
okay.
she's happy with
Okay.
what's happened, then that's fine. I just don't want her to see other people getting the Golden Heart Award and she's thinking, well, so Councilwoman Valerius. Yeah, thank you.
What is the date of this?
July 24th. It's the fourth Friday in July, and I don't know, we haven't decided on the time. It'll probably be in the afternoon sometime, I would think. And then of course, if they want to have, other people there that can, clap for them, or, do some, they can be a part of that too, so. But we would like to know ahead of time so we can sort of plan all the social distancing, et cetera. So we don't want to follow any of that stuff. Unless the mandate changes and we have either further restrictions or less restrictions. So we'll just sort of play it by ear. Deputy Mayor Combs, is there anything else you would like to add regarding our discussion regarding Homer Pride?
I would just encourage everyone to take a break from whatever else you're doing, do a little driving around, maybe snap a photo and then send it up to the mayor we have a lot of beautiful homes in our community. Some folks are putting in some extra time because they have it. This summer was not going maybe to something else. So I've done that in the past. I just gone ahead and taken a picture and get a note of an address, So I think this can be a very positive way of presenting this, and one of the things that I will want, and any ideas will be welcome. But we need to start thinking that next year we'll be celebrating a birthday as well, just like we did, just a few short years ago. They just kind of zipped right by here. So next year, City Farm will be 70 years old. So everybody needs to just keep that in mind. And when you come up with an idea, I don't care if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, let me know. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And thank you, Councilwoman Berber, for your nomination today for the Beautification Award. That's looks like they've really done a lot in that area. I don't know if you have a before picture, not that you need one, but it looks like they've been working very hard. So that's a great nomination. Thank you.
If I can just comment on that, it's a woman who just moved here from Anchorage, had that little house in Boston. This is all brand new landscaping that she's doing herself, and she's done quite a bit more work since I took those pictures. It's just down the street from my house, and it's very pretty.
Good. Yeah. Great. Thank you. One thing that wasn't on my report that's happened since that time, as you know, the governor had appointed me to the 911 Governor's Task Force. We've had 2 meetings since that time, since, my appointment, and, they've divided, into 3 different sections. One, subcommittee is on 911, like on the cell towers, the coverage, et cetera. The other one's on consolidation, and then the last one's on research. And, both, Brad Hansen and myself are on the 911 as well as the consolidation committee. And, I think our 911, meeting will be next week. It hasn't been, they just sent out a questionnaire asking what days we were available. And, but we haven't heard back when that exactly is gonna be, so. And I think then that is all, on that portion. Does anybody have any suggestions for the AML position statements that you would like to see either deleted, changed, or if you have one that you would like to have added? Because we want to send these off so they can be considered, you know, in the August meeting, and then of course they will go forth after the August meeting, then they'll go forth to the conference in November, and I don't know, maybe Councilwoman Sabrina Combs can tell us, but I guess that probably is going to be up in the air whether we're going to meet in person in Anchorage in November or not. But, so.
Sure. Madam Mayor, the August one now is kind of tentative. It's last I talked with no. It's likely that it will just be virtual. And then in November is when we actually vote on these position statements. So if you have suggestions or changes, those can come via email before the 30th of this month, and then we'll have them in time for the August meeting.
Right. So does anybody have any tonight? And if we don't, I don't hear, if you don't send either to the clerk or myself, then we will just go forth with these for the meeting. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions regarding my report or anything else I'd like to discuss? Okay.
Madam Mayor?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I just had a question about the Freedom Festival that occurred earlier this month. I noticed that there was a Freedom Car float in the parade, and I was just wondering if we had to pay overtime to a city employee for that. I know we participated in Colony Days and Colony Christmas, but we're sponsors of that event, so I was just wondering if we had to pay a city employee to drive that float.
And that was John?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Okay, that's just not budgeted, so I was just curious how that was authorized.
I would assume that there is money that we appropriated for overtime in our budget, and they use that money that's they're already approved.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So this year, some different things happened we haven't dealt with before. We have a larger march or protest, and then this Freedom Festival. And usually, the city of Palmer, from everything I understand, is intimately involved in planning and preparing this. And this was different this year. So I think the response we tried to be pretty similar, but this winter, with all this, you're cold and this heat wave goes and you're not thinking about this, I want to kind of put together a policy that will come back to city council on how we deal with these items that are not sponsored by the city of Palmer, and what resources we do, how much we charge, how much we anticipate cost, and just get a decision on this. I think the challenge we have right now is trying to be consistent. There is costs. I mean, both these events cost us additional money that we did not anticipate. So I like to have a plan going forward, because we've proven in Palmer we can do these things well and safely, and I think it's going to encourage others to look to Palmer to promote whatever they feel like they need to be promoted. So that's my plan. I will have something this winter for you to consider.
Further questions or comments? have a city attorney's report.
Yes, Madam Mayor, a couple of things, if I may. First of all, I'd like to echo a couple of comments on the wastewater treatment plan. I'll be meeting with the agency attorneys tomorrow to talk about the consent decree modification and how that's evolving. The city manager mentioned that he's going to proceed with a fund balance proposition and seek other funding sources. I think that is a very prudent approach to take in light of the circumstances at the wastewater treatment plant. So we'll see how that all evolves, and then the council and mayor will be saying more about this in the coming months. The other issue is on the CARES Act grant. I assume all of you have read grant agreements and attachments, and the municipal attorneys have looked at this as a group, and we've come to the consensus that it was fairly hastily put together and has some unclear requirements in it that we're looking towards to see how they affect certain activities. And so when we get into that discussion, I'll probably have a couple of more comments on that. But also in anything we do, as far as setting up programs and things like that, it would be prudent for us to look at those grant agreements and incorporate certain provisions in the agreements we enter into with applicants and include slowdown provisions in those documents. And I know there's a balance on, getting things going smoothly and quickly, but there's also a balance that there are conditions associated with that money and requirements that we need to meet. And so we want to be very diligent in ensuring that we do meet those requirements and we make sure the money properly gets into the hands of people who are deserving of it. And then the other comment I've spoken with the city manager about the police grant, and he's looking into that. I think it's a good program for an additional officer. But we always want to look at those grant requirements and make sure we're well aware of them. So those are my comments, Mayor. If anyone has any questions, I'll really try to answer them or try to get to you if I don't have it. I don't know what my fingertips.
Any questions or comments to the city attorney regarding his report, or any questions you have of him?
I have one more comment too, if there are no questions. And I'm sorry, I'll also be speaking to the city clerk about citizen petitions and legal issues associated with those as they go through the process. So I wanted to mention that as well. Thanks.
The next item on our agenda is audience participation. Anyone in the audience is welcome to address the council. 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing the group. Audience participation is now open.
Right. So if it doesn't work, just let me know. Hold on, English, I'm gonna give you 5. Ready when you are.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. It's nice to get to see your faces while I talk tonight. That's the first. There we go. Thanks. I asked Norma to move it so I look younger and skinnier. So thanks for having my back here, lady.
You're fine.
So I am here on behalf of Palmer Chamber Chamber, just giving my monthly update to the City Council on a few things. We've collected almost all of the Shop Palmer cards for our program that ran June 1st through July 13th. There are a couple of businesses not open today that we could get their cards from, but we will get them tomorrow and we'll do our drawing for our two $500 Visa gift cards. Participation has been really good so far for the summer and for what's going on in our world. We have started tallying the cards, which we just keep in house. We don't broadcast that information to anybody, but we'll give you guys. I was hoping to have a total today for you tonight, but we got super slammed and weren't able to. So we're just coming off of a very busy week for the chamber and our little community. We had our annual fundraising golf tournament last Friday, which was very fun. And it was our second best ever, so that was really encouraging. We had 25 teams participate, and the weather was perfect. Not the whole day, but it did end up being a really nice afternoon, and it was great to have so many people out enjoying it. And from what I've heard, the golf course has been extra busy this year, so that's good that people are out and getting their swings in, which is funny because golf is one of those things that just frustrates me. So I appreciate that everyone, maybe that's how they're getting their therapy this summer, is through golfing. So, and then on Friday night, we helped out with the Palmer Wine Walk, which is a fundraiser for the museum. And that was also a sold-out event, and they did it a little differently this year. Instead of unleashing 350 people on town all at once, they moved folks into three different start times, and it went very well. There were a couple things that were funky, but we're hoping that next year it'll be a little bit more smooth. But that is a very large fundraiser for the museum, and so we were happy to get to assist them with that. And then Friday Fling was happening on Friday. So coming back from the golf course, we had our golf tournament after party at Madison Brewing Company. Friday Fling was happening, and there were wine walkers. So town was very full, and it was very exciting to see so many people out enjoying our little town. So they're excited that Friday Fling is happening. Everyone that I've talked to, which is five or six brick and mortars downtown and off the beaten path, have had upticks in business on Fridays. So Friday Fling is not just for those itinerant vendors, but it's also for our brick and mortars. So people are coming to town and wandering all over town, not just going to the Friday Fling. So we're very happy with that. We've made some more adjustments due to requests from people about spacing at the event, and some food takes longer than others, so we're making little adjustments, and we're hoping that what we've done now will get us through the rest of the summer without having to make any more adjustments, because it's kind of a lot for my staff and I to keep changing things. So, but that's the theme of 2020. So Friday Fling, and then Saturday we had the Palmer Midsummer Garden Art Fair, which was the first year that we have run the Midsummer Garden Art Fair. The museum board decided that they did not want to run it anymore after last year, so their director came to us and asked us if we'd like to take it on, and it's one of my favorite events of the year. And so I said yes, even though my board thought I was insane. So it was a little bit much last week, but it was very good. It was a great weekend in Palmer. We had live music, food trucks, vendors, and just different vendors than we see other places. So it's a really nice event. So yeah, now we're just going to cruise through the summer on Friday Fling and maybe some smaller promote Palmer projects, but we're done with our big events for the summer for right now, unless somebody else has some other idea of things that I can do. So I have had a few people reach out to the chamber about getting a fall candidate forum going for city council and for, I'm not sure about assembly, are there assembly elections this year?
Senate,
Yeah. Oh yes, House, right, it's 2020, right, okay, it's been a long day. So yes, we've been contacted about conducting candidate forums in the fall, which we will probably do again. We might offer some sort of hybrid event like we've been doing with Cash Mob Zoom and also an in-person if we can have a space that we have, allows for everything that we need to allow for. So we are working on that. So if you are running for a office, we will probably be reaching out about all of those upcoming elections. We'll see how many we can do in the time frame that we have. So, yes, and then last night I was at the Board of Economic Development meeting. I wanted to just sit in and help out with any questions that they had with their committee as a whole regarding the CARES Act. And I was very pleased with how simple the application is that you guys are going to be talking about later. How simple that application is for businesses, nonprofits in our community. I think that what the city is doing is going to have a really great impact for our businesses, and they have the best chance at getting money through the city than going something through the federal government. And I feel like what you guys are doing is really impactful for the super small businesses that are on Main Street. A two-sided application is pretty incredible for these busy business owners. So overall, the feeling in town is pretty positive. But everyone is definitely aware that things could change with the fall and winter, and people are seeing some tourists come in, which I think is good. And everyone is doing their own way, they're running their businesses how they are comfortable. Some are requiring masks, some aren't. And I think I'm excited to tally up the Shop Palmer cards because based on how heavy some of these boxes are, I feel like it was a very large success for the times that we're in. So we will get those numbers out tomorrow, and we'll hopefully get everything tallied up to do a Facebook Live around 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Where we'll give away those gift cards and some other smaller prizes. So I just want to thank the city for their continued help with events that we have, with loaning us barricades for Friday Fling. I've worked with the city on getting a larger dumpster for Friday Fling. With the increase in traffic, we're producing a lot more trash, and so instead of it going all over the place, we now have a larger receptacle to put it in. And yeah, we look forward to working throughout the rest of this year with you guys, helping with the grant program. I've already talked to business owners about it. We're going to put it on our website to direct people to those applications for the city and for the borough, because I know that the borough was talking about something similar this evening as well. So we're here as a support for the business community and for the city, of course. And we just, our goal right now is to keep Main Street and keep the city looking like it does and not lose any of our businesses that are the heart and soul of our little town. So thank you for your time. Thank you for making this adjustment so I can see those of you that are on the screen, and I appreciate the time.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Best?
Madam Mayor, if I could I ask council to suspend the rules, and I'd like to ask you a couple of questions of Director Fong.
Yes. Is there any objections to us suspending the rules so Councilman Best can address the participant?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay.
No.
So come back then, please. Yeah. Okay, Councilman Best, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First off, I'd like to say that I appreciate the chamber and yourself for being advocates for the businesses in town, and also to be good stewards and partners with the city of Palmer and making sure that the place is kept clean while you guys are doing your events. My question to you is, with the COVID situation and the way that we're having to do business differently, how do you see the Friday Flings as being different than the Colony Days events, and or in, I know this is another entity and not yours itself, but like the Alaska State Fair, how are we doing things differently, or how is this, we still have foot traffic and vendors, how is this different?
Thank you for asking that question. We've gotten that question a lot from people, and the biggest thing with Colony Days was the parade. The parade itself draws in probably 3,000 to 4,000 people. depending on the weather. Always more people if it's a nice day. But in the last few years, I've seen the parade busier than I've ever seen it. And I've worked, I was working when I worked for the city. I was out on that crew setting, closing the roads and stuff, so you kind of get to see how many folks are there. And the sheer volume of people descending upon our town at one time was a major decision, a major factor in the decision to cancel Colony Days. And Friday Fling is a lot smaller. We can manage barriers. We have a fence up. I say fence loosely, but we have guided arrows to point people to where they can enter through a designated entrance or exit to use hand sanitizer and things like that. But Colony Days is just, we have about 60 vendors for Friday Fling, and we have well over 100 for Colony Days. And so with the space that we have, we just felt that we cannot manage the crowds with Colony Days. Even after the parade and even on Sunday, like it can be very busy on Sunday. So if we want to have any kind of spacing and not too many people waiting for food or anything like that, we just felt like we couldn't do it safely. And the fair, I'm not really involved with the fair, but their biggest thing was the concert series, and people, they could have done it at very limited capacity, but it's not financially worth it for the artist, and the fair would be just losing a ton of money doing that. But I do know that the fair is working on some aspects of the fair to present to the community later during the fair time. I think the livestock auction just got announced within the last couple of days. So that's an important part of the history of the fair and something that people continue to love today. So, Friday Flings brings in probably a couple thousand people over the course of the day. And those people are there from 11 to 6, and they're all kind of moving through as they can. And Colony Days, it was just too much of a risk for us to take that on. And it was weird to not do it. So we're hopeful that we can do something for Colony Christmas. To me, that's a long ways away, seeming that every day is about 75 hours. So we'll just have to play that card when it gets dealt. So does that answer your question?
It does, and I really appreciate the information. Continuing this dialogue is something that's very important. I appreciate you coming in, what you do. The public isn't always aware of some of these decisions. I think the intensity of the fair, where you want to have, on a normal good business day, you want to have people shoulder to shoulder. And I do respect some of those decisions. But I just wanted to have your take on it and kind of drive that point home a little bit. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We've been listening in on CDC webinars and phone calls about events, and there's so much talk about indoor events, and in the middle of our Alaskan summer, we're not thinking about indoor events at all. We're thinking about what we can do for our outdoor events, and so we feel very confident about hosting outdoor events, and we've made these changes with our vendors that have a longer food line, so people aren't congregating. That seems to be the biggest concern, is congregation. And outside it still is less, and they say, with less than 6 feet apart, then wear a mask outside. But the way we've got things scheduled down or situated now, it seems to be working pretty well to give those people more space to spread out if they so choose. So, my staff is me full-time, and I have a part-time office person and a part-time market coordinator. So we are doing the best we can and trying to adapt just like everyone else with everything going on. So,
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for your time and for the points that you're making, Ailish. I've been talking with several different groups, several different settings, and I don't think, as Councilmember Beth pointed out, I'm not sure that the public is always aware of just what kind of resources are necessary and are getting used up in a hurry, trying to have even something simple go on. And it's not just the, as I told one person, it's not just the roll of paper, extra rolls of paper towels. It's, when I say resources, it's a very good point, and keep making it, please, that it's just you and a part-time person. Your time is a huge resource, and that goes for anything, you know, just to set up for a council meeting takes a whole lot more, in order to go down that checklist. And we need to not ever forget that, you know, that all of these, efforts are being made, with the best intentions in the world to keep the public safe. So thank you for your explanations, and thank you for your time, Ailish.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to have a good relationship with the city. I'm sad to hear that Palmer Pride will not be happening in person, as I love that event and mostly the fresh cabbage and carrots, but it's fine. I'll survive. But so yeah, hopefully we can maybe talk about doing something later if it warrants itself to be safe for the public. But yeah, a lot of people like to tell you that it's fine or whatever, but you know, it still is. It's a lot to put on events, and I mean, in a normal year, it's a lot to put on events. We love our events, and our people know that they can come to Palmer for a fun event, like City Manager Brucey said. And so, I just, you know, we want to have that open and able to happen. And we just, you know, if we could bring in thousands of people safely, we would. But it's hard enough to find hand sanitizer by the gallons. So, yeah.
Any other councilperson has a question or a comment? While we have the suspension of the rules.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
So anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council? 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing the group. Seeing no one else, I'll close audience participation. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business, information memorandum number 20-006. Committee of the whole for the general discussion regarding the code of ethics for the city council. No action may be taken following the committee of the whole. What is the wishes of the council?
Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Sabrina Holmes.
Thanks. I was wondering if we could just take a brief recess before we go into committee hall.
Oh, sure. Yeah. 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so our clock says 8:07 here, almost 8:08, so should we come back at 8:18? Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you. Sabrina Combs has left.
Yes.
Richard Beck.
I have already contacted.
That was.
We're doing a primary questionnaire, we're doing a general questionnaire.
Member is still absent.
We're ready. So we have before us the ordinance that was drafted in 2014. When we come out of the committee of the whole, either I will make a motion or someone else can make the motion that we will remove the word "and employees" in any place in, because this is a code for just the city of Palmer elected officials. So that's one thing we'll put on the table. Does anybody have a section they want to discuss or want to change, or a session you want to add? I'm sorry, was Councilwoman Sabrina Combs.
Thanks. I just have a question about what happened in 2013. Like, this obviously came before you guys before, and so I'm just curious what the discussion was then, if anyone can remember, and why it didn't go through then. So maybe we can avoid the same issues.
Steve, Deputy Mayor, Councilman Best.
I could address that.
Okay, go ahead.
As you saw prior to us whittling it down to just looking at the one in 2014, Councilmember Gomes, we actually attempted to address it in 2011, and I believe 2012 as well. as near as I can determine, some work was done on it, but it was never brought to the table. It was never approved, put on in
Richard Best.
Have joined.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had done the research to see if it had ever been brought to the table and to see it, so I was just curious. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, my notes indicate that it never, never made it through whatever vetting process, however they were handling agenda setting at that time.
Councilman Best, we are in committee of the whole, and the question was asked, regarding the ordinance, and what kind of problems or challenges there might have been in the presentation of this, and Deputy Mayor Combs has just addressed this, saying that, from her recollection, it never got to be on the agenda. If you have some input on that, you're welcome to, or I had stated, when we went into committee of the whole, that, one of the things that I will, either make the motion, or if somebody else wants to do that's fine, just to remove any, the references to and employees, because this is the code of ethics for, the city elected officials, so. I think that,
Madam Mayor?
yes, Councilman.
I presume that this would, also pertain to the boards as well, and they're basically appointed, not elected.
Right, I think it does address that,
Yeah, it's actually, right in the beginning, it says elected and appointed officials.
right. And
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Madam Mayor?
yes.
So, do the employees have code ethics? City Palmer?
John, the employees has a code of ethics, right? Or something similar, personnel rules and regulations?
Yeah, yes, we do. But they've not been reviewed in the last 3 weeks, so I can assure you.
Nice job. Plus 3 weeks.
So does any, oh, yes, go ahead.
I guess I'm just wondering if Mike can remember, did he kind of go through this 2014 version and kind of vet it at that time, or what? If he's got any comments about this?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What did you say?
Does the attorney have any comments?
Oh, okay. Mike, did you hear Councilman Carrington's question?
Yes, I did, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
And it's, my hazy recollection is it's possible that I looked at this, why it didn't come forward, I don't know. I think this was, probably, in the city clerk's office at that time, and whether a decision was made that it wasn't necessary, or it just never made it on the, finish up to-do list, I don't know. But, a couple of things I do want to mention, with respect to, the code of ethics and the question about the employees. There are, codes of ethics sprinkled throughout the city code and charter that talk about substantial financial interests and a couple of other things. So, perhaps the thinking at that time was that was sufficient. So this was not, needed. And also, if you go to the personnel rules, there's a series of prohibited conduct where disciplinary action can be imposed on the employees if a case is proven up. So there's an entire personnel code that addresses some various indiscretions. So I just wanted to share that for the group in general.
Councilman Carrington, does that address your concerns? concerns? Councilman?
It gives me information anyway.
Okay. Okay, Councilman Best, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe this actually did make it to the council level where there was a discussion, much like we are doing tonight, where there was some determination at the time that due to our charter and the codes that we currently have, where there is already the abilities for council to censure a council member for speaking out of turn, and then we also have the laws in which we are invited to adhere to, in which if one would have broken the law and they were found to have it to be egregious to warrant them being removed, there's already a process there. It also came back to the fact that the way that this is written as well, where it talks about the city employees and the conduct that is already managed within our personnel department, that there was a lot of conflict. And so, you know, if you read through this document, there seems to be a lot of stuff that is very vague, and even in the language itself, it talks about how the interpretation is still going to be, it's going to be measured in such a way that I don't see where there's also actions that would happen if one was to breach this, other than it would just be that it has happened. And so I think our charter and code already allows us to react to misconduct in a certain way, and I don't know that this necessarily does anything different.
Councilwoman Valerius, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate being able to go through this and review it and respectfully to Councilman Best. I think that this is very important for us to adopt a code of ethics. There are definitely ways that people can file complaints. You know, it addresses that, but clearly what we have in the charter and those kind of things, they're there, and that's great, but that has not been enough. And so I think it's really important that we move forward with adopting some code of ethics. The voters have asked for it. It's what we need to do. It's our duty at this point, I think. So thank you.
Further questions or comments?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
the material that was also provided from the other city caused me to think that in some respects, what we could certainly look at is having a what's already in the charter, and then rather than maybe an ordinance, but have a policy. There were several, see if I can find it here, several things under the just policies for the city of Belmont. There was code of ethics and conduct, but in particular you know, just a policy statement, and that could get either very detailed or not. But rather than have that amount of detail in an actual ordinance, which could need cleaning up or revision on a regular basis, would seem unhandy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we just have a policy purpose or a a policy that covers a code of ethics and conduct, that is something that could be reviewed on a regular basis. Make sure that we're up to date on language, slang, whatever, that sort of thing. And I don't know if I'm making any sense here or not. But that would be my first question. Would that be possible for us to have two separate things, specific listed, code of conduct, even if all it says is that, the elected officials will, follow absolutely everything that is stated in the policy, for ethics and conduct for elected officials. Now I think I've gone completely off track. So let's start with the city attorney. Is there, would that make sense to address it in two different formats like that?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I think, sure, you could do it that way if you chose to. It may be helpful to look at some of the charter and code provisions that reflect some of the ethical considerations that you might be interested in promoting. Obviously everybody wants to make sure there's ethics in government, and that's all good government to follow those ethical considerations. Title 29 also has an ethics provision in it. That's the default ethics provision that applies if a community has not adopted an ethics code that deals with typically substantial financial interests. A couple of things about trying to work in an ethics code, and it's a policy call for the mayor and council to adopt an ethics code or not, with the provisions they see fit to include, should they so proceed. But it's very difficult to craft these provisions, and there are gray area in them, and there is interpretational questions that come up from time to time. I'll just lay this on the table too. If you do adopt an ethics code, then the question becomes, is there going to be a compliance mechanism? And if you have that, what does that look like? And what would be the budgetary issues that relate to that? Because if you do have an ethics charge that is levied against one of the elected officials, there's questions of due process, how to process that, a hearing, confidentiality, or public discussion of it at some point, screening, all of those things. And the Matsu Borough had an ethics code, and sometimes it was used for mischief, and other times it was used because there were serious concerns. But if you do adopt one, there's a number of questions if it's going to be enforceable, compliant sort of document. If it's going to be an aspirational document, like a policy document or something like that, that's another story. And there might be political ramifications if there is a violation, that someone might file a petition with the clerk or something to raise those sorts of issues. So this is a complex area, and it's tough to wade through. Madam Deputy Mayor, I think it's really whatever the discretion of the council is as to how they want to structure an ethics approach.
Mike, do you think on page 48 and 49, where it talks about people that file complaints and who addresses it, and the hearing officer, etc., going in even over on page 50, does that address the concern, or is that not? Enough, or is that too much, or does that address the concern you raised? Sure.
Well, that's the process piece of it. That is part of it. It's not only the ethical conduct considerations you'd be looking at, but it is going to be something that measure to address it. And so this speaks about the process and how it operates, and that's what I was getting to. And if you have a hearing officer, how you do that is a budgetary consideration. It says that the attorney determines if the complaint is sufficient. I would probably say to you on that, because you guys, I report to the council and the mayor, I would probably request an outside counsel to make that determination rather than me, because it would put, the city attorney in a position of passing judgment on the people he reports to. So that's one issue. But this is kind of a standard process. I mean, we'd like to run it a little more if we were to proceed with it. But there's complications associated with this issue. The other complication is if there's a complaint filed against an elected official, does the city cover an attorney for that? Probably not, but that's a case-by-case consideration. And so that's another issue. I've dealt with a fair amount of these over the years, and I have to say, for the most part, with rare exceptions, they usually, at least the ones I've dealt with, didn't have that much merit, but were more politically driven. So those are just my experience out of the mix. But these are complex analyses to adopt a code of ethics.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, Councilwoman Valerius.
Madam Mayor, may I ask Mr. Gotti a question?
Sure.
Mr. Gotti, what do other cities do? I mean, certainly Westerla, Anchorage, and there's a lot of other cities that have codes of ethics. So, they've obviously at least addressed some of these things that are brought up. So can we utilize something that they're doing as a kind of a starting place?
Can I just interrupt? I did check with the city of Wasilla, and what they have now is pretty much just what we have on, contracts, that kind of thing. They don't have, something like what we're looking at. So, but go ahead, Mike. Yeah. I did check with Mike. So go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Councilmember Miller, other cities have it. I'm not saying this is an impossible task. I mean, communities have it. Metsu Borough has it, Anchorage has it. I need to do more thorough research to tell you exactly what a number of other communities have, but it's not unusual that communities do have this. And some do and some don't. And that's really a political decision on the part of the elected officials of the community on what level of ethical approach they want to adopt.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Best, go ahead.
I appreciate this discussion. And I understand the desire to have limitations and on activities. I also, if we are going to have limitations on activities, there has to be actions that can happen by the body on respect over these rights. Could I ask the attorney for his interpretation of a mechanism that we currently have within our code that would allow for council to have a discussion on an activity from a council member and a tool that is currently on our books that would give some reaction from the council to that individual council member.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Well, there's a number of provisions in Title 29. There's the vacancy in office provision, which has a list of items that, if an elected official engages in a Title 29 municipality, they can be removed from office if someone has engaged in a substantial, taken official action when they have a substantial financial interest. I think the council can self-police its members, and I think the public might do so as well through recall applications. The common law still applies, even though there's not a direct ordinance for ethics activities, so there's that. Robert's rules, I have to defer to the clerk, because the clerk's that's, I don't know, 15 years ago or better, decided that were more critical ones to handle Robert's rules. But my recollection is there is a tentative provision in Robert's rules, and the city operates under Robert's rules. Excuse me, when procedural ordinances don't apply. So there's those sorts of mechanisms that exist. And there's also the electorate that can raise issues if they're dissatisfied with an elected official. Plus, elected officials in Palmer for years stand for re-election, and the voters can make that determination one way or another if they think something is inappropriate. And so there are some mechanisms. They're not as strictly set out where there's a recipe that they need to file a complaint, review a complaint, screen a complaint. If there's probable cause, the complaint goes to the next step, then there's a hearing officer, then there's a notice of the complaint, and then there's maybe briefing and hearing set up. Witnesses might be presented, and we're sort of moving to trial. And that's what this somewhat contemplates. If the council were to do something, excuse me, using my voice, if the council were to do something that was less formalistic, there wouldn't be, there would be more of a political process, I think, rather than a due process proceeding. I don't know if that's maybe the best way that answers your question or not, and there's a follow-up, so I'd be happy to try to answer.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
And I appreciate the attorney's answer. That was very informative as to the complexities to this document that we have before us. But I'd like to bring it back to the attention that somebody you would state a censure. Now, another municipality in Alaska is a home rule municipality, much like the city of Palmer. Much of their code is pretty close to what we have. And in that city, that there was a mayor that the council had an item that had been discussed. The body, which is a governing body, the council, had discussed it, and they had voted on something. And sometime later, while down in Juneau, the mayor was advocating in opposition of the position that the council had already voted on. And of course, as a governing body, that's the position you carried. They were lobbying for the opposite of what that governing body had decided. And in that situation, one could say that was an ethical issue. It was also against kind of the operation of the city council itself. And that council took it upon to police themselves. And so at that moment, they decided that they would censure that mayor, and they eliminated some abilities of that mayor to travel outside the city, to lobby on the city's behalf, unless that there was, others, available, and then they self-police the attorney, the attorney utilized. And so there are mechanisms within our current code, of all the codes that we follow and the processes that we follow, that if we as a governing body feel that, a member has stepped outside of what the norm is, of how they should act, that there are mechanisms in which, we can self-police. And so we have, the law, and we have a review process in case somebody brings a complaint that they believe is unlawful, that the council has done or the individual has done, that would get reviewed, potentially reviewed by another attorney. We would have that as well, and then the council itself can take action if they see that it is necessary. So there are tools for the council to utilize if as a body, they make that decision, something has happened to warrant or a reaction.
And Councilman Best, do you feel that in our code and our charter and in Title 29, that I guess permission to do that is already in either one of those 3 documents?
Madam Mayor, I am not a practicing attorney. We all sit from the, we all sit from the couch or from the armchairs of our position and make decisions, and we always lean on the attorney. But I believe I've seen it. I've been following some of the other municipalities that have home rule like what we do, and see that there are tools in which if the governing body feels that something has been that needs to be addressed, that there are the tools there. And this lengthy document, while I can agree with a large portion of it as to how one should act in a policy issue, the ability to make a decision as a governing body is our responsibilities. And this is kind of clarifying with a lot of ambiguity, which doesn't really clarify, and it then puts it in the hands of others versus the governing body that we are to make decisions and to enforce things as we have the something to do.
So with that, then, where we talk about the hearing officer, et cetera, that would be an area in this presentation that you would maybe prefer to have some changes?
No, ma'am. I think that to adopt this code of ethics actually opens up more ambiguity and more, while it's intended to clarify things and states some issues, there's also, as it even reads that H under declaration of policy, in order for no code of conduct, however comprehensive, can anticipate all situations in which violations may occur, nor can it prescribe behaviors that are appropriate to every situation. In addition, laws and regulations, nor can it prescribe behaviors that are appropriate, I reread that sentence, regarding ethical responsibilities, cannot legislate morality, eradicate corruption, or eliminate bad judgment. And I take that as the most accurate statement in this entire document, because we as a governing body have to use judgment. And it's judgment as a body, not as individuals, but we're able to filter through a lot of information and make the decisions as a governing body. And I think this actually kind of tries to, I wouldn't say it tries to eliminate our responsibility, but I think it does actually kind of do that a little bit.
Yes.
I don't believe that in Title 29, the Code of Charter, there's a censure provision. I think you would find that in Robert's rules. But and just sort of looking at this document, if you look at page 47 and prohibited act, if you look at A, it talks about official action. It says an official can't participate in an action in which they have a substantial financial interest. So that's in our code already. And it talks about a board or commission member who've already decided to take the appointments out. And then there's also the process where, in Title 29, where the proposed conflict is raised. And I think the council is very good on raising potential conflicts and having them vetted by the council. At least that's my observation. So you go through that process, which exists in Title 29 already, and it talks about an official testifying before council, board, or commission without first disclosing any financial interest that they have. And there's a business prohibition, a set of business prohibitions. I think that's probably in the code already under the procurement code in Title, it was in Title 3. There's a ethical provision in there. And like I said, these things are sprinkled throughout the code. Use the office for personal gain. Well, that's a serious no-no. Representing private interests. Those are all pretty basic things. Solicit a benefit from someone in the organization or outside the organization. Confidential information. You can't disclose that. You have a duty not to do that anyway. Not taking gratuities. I don't think there's anything in the code about gratuities, but maybe there is in the code. If you settlement, $25. So you go through these items and you say, okay, is this a new item or is there something there? So it might be helpful to have a comparison of the ethical provision code vis-a-vis this document, and then make a judgment from there as to what path you want to proceed under. Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Harrington.
We've also got the code of ethics for the city of Belmont, and I guess, and maybe it's because it started with a quote from Mark Twain, always do right, this will gratify some people and astonish the rest. But I like the feel of that one where, to me, it's almost, it's organized very well. It addresses some things that I've seen as issues and how how officials deal with the public and what is some of the intentions. And to me, I like the city of Belmont one. I guess I'd rather see, hear back from the attorney about how hard that would be to make it apply to our code. Because to me, it was refreshing in a direction I like to go, as opposed to the other one from 2014 that goes me to sleep. But that's just my comment.
Yeah, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Herbert.
I agree with Councilman Carrington. I especially like the portion of that where each of us would sign upon coming into office, or once we adopt something along this line, a policy along this line. I like the policy aspect of it versus the code aspect of the other one. So if Mr. Gannon can speak to that for us, that'd be great.
Mike, does the council have policies, and how are those kept and available to the public, etc.?
Well, if you adopted a policy, some of the policies we have are contained in the personnel code. You could put this in the council area if you want to adopt it by an ordinance, just saying the council shall adopt an ethics policy, which is available to the public. Have that be the ordinance, and then either put this in the code or have it available as an addendum like the airport regulations. And it wouldn't necessarily be a regulation, it's just a council policy governing your own conduct. with respect to the other question from Councilmember Carrington about how difficult this would be to wordsmith it and tailor it to the city, it can be done. I think that's, if you direct us to do it, we'll do it.
Right, so. Okay, so.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Holmes?
I'll take another step in here. What I'm hearing is from Councilmember, Burbrick and Carrington is pretty much what I tried to state to start with. I have to say that what I am reading here in, the proposed, legislation for an ordinance from 2014, in an attempt to do a very good thing, it's not all that great. I think you lose people about third or fourth page because it's just I think it's gone too deep. Another city that I happen to look at, just because of size and that sort of thing, was Seward, for example. And they've got, what they're calling a council rules of procedure, So something along those lines, something along a, policy statement or procedure statements, and these are what, our council, because of, essentially we do sign something, as soon as we sign that we've taken the oath of office. Each and every one of us, it's, I'm sure each and every one of us already have a personal, set of rules and codes that we each live by, that are very ethical, etc., as individuals, but we take that one step further when we, raise our hand, take our oath of office and sign that we've done so. So, but I think that would be a good direction to take, to direct, that we have Joe Boyer, a policy or procedures, segment that just applies to the council. It could be simplified, it could be something that would be easy for both the public and, any, elected officials to understand. And that's what we're looking for.
Something's going on.
That was Councilmember Best.
Oh, yes, Councilman Best, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilwoman Boldres, I believe, was just kicked out. I want to ask Councilmember Combs, Deputy Mayor, if she could give a moment or two until potentially
She's been in the Zoom. She's been in the Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Still connected through Zoom and has not lost. Sorry, she has been connected through Zoom, has not lost her audio ability through Zoom. Okay. As Sabrina, Councilmember Combs, while we did lose her in Zoom, she has been connected on the phone the whole time, so no one has actually left the meeting. It's been in the whole time.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, so, all
I
right,
appreciate that. Sorry about that, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, it's great clarification.
no problem. So any other council people have input? So,
Madam Mayor.
yes, Councilman Best?
I am in agreement that as a policy, I like the Belmont, document that we have before us. I think it is, well written. I think it's very easy to understand. I wouldn't mind having a discussion about this document itself, and get an opinion from the attorney after he gets more time to oversight that he might have as to issues on enforcement.
Okay. So maybe when we come out of, the committee on the whole, there could be a motion that, the document from the city of Belmont would come back to us with, removing all of the notations to the, city of Belmont and the state of California, et cetera. And, I know, I don't know whether, I suppose the clerk would be the one that would have to do that, and her plate is, is pretty full right now, so that would probably be another month or so, maybe, right? After election.
Pretty much, unless
Go ahead, Judy, my thought.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, with so much added with the COVID and everything, all that. City Manager Lucy, is this something you would be able to tackle to get it expedited a little bit more than 2021?
Potentially, I was going to have, and I understand how important this is, I was setting my sights on putting together a plan to do the city council planning that was put aside. So that's my focus. As soon as we get through the election, that sort of thing, kind of set the focus. Now, I guess it comes back to the city council, and I know they're both important. If the ethics is a higher priority than putting together a priority and really kind of our strategic plan for the city, I'm happy to do so. And so this is a challenge we always have. We've got a whole lot of important stuff to do, and it's very hard to do priorities because everything should be a priority. But I work for you folks, and I'm happy to do the business you want me to do.
Okay, so let me ask the council.
Madam Mayor?
Okay, let me ask the council first, please. You heard what, Norma said regarding her time frame, and even with the new additional person part-time, what her time frame would be. You hear the suggestion that the city manager said, so I'd like your input on, yes, Councilwoman Gerber.
Madam Mayor, if this is a matter of rewriting this, taking out the city of Belmont, obviously, committees, things like that, just to present it to the attorney, that's something that I'm happy to do, but if that's possible.
Sure.
Yeah, Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll do it. I can assign it to a paralegal or an associate for that basic work, and look at how it conforms or not to our code, and put a working draft, not a final draft, a working draft together within whatever time frame works for the mayor and council.
And what time frame would you be looking at, sir? A month?
Whatever you guys tell me.
A month, 2 months, next week?
I think way less than that, but whatever you guys ask for, we'll make that happen.
No later than the first meeting in September.
Okay. Okay. The clerk is saying maybe no later than the first meeting in September. How does that fit everybody's schedule? Okay.
Third.
Okay, so, are we ready to come out of the committee on the whole then, and someone to make that motion? Oh, yeah, Councilman Berger.
I'm so sorry, Madam Mayor. So, I don't know if this is the perfect way for this, but I don't believe there's anything in here regarding social media. And I do think that we need to sort of roll with the times here and have something in regards to a code of ethics and conduct with social media. Is that something that the lawyer could incorporate, or is that something we could tell me how to go on with that?
Well, we already have something, right, Norma, that we signed regarding, go ahead.
We do have in Title II, a social media policy.
Right.
It's a bit outdated after review in the last couple of months, so there are definitely some updates that need to be had. It doesn't, I have to look at it again. I don't think
oath or something we signed, I don't know whether it has to do with the iPad
Yeah.
and the use of, the iPads, the equipment or something, help me with that,
Yes.
please.
Thank you. Yes. So you're right. We do have an electronic use policy that is signed by anyone who is issued any type of electronic device,
Okay.
phone, tablet, anything. And it does speak a little bit in there in that policy. So, yep.
Okay. So Councilwoman Berwick, would you want all of that then incorporated into this?
Not necessarily. I'm happy to, if the city clerk would be wanting to update that Title II portion of the social media, that needs some review, that sounds like a good plan too.
Okay, and also the part that you signed regarding when you received your iPad, the use of the iPad, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that was the second part of it, yeah.
I added it to my
Yeah.
list right here.
Okay, all right. And Mike, you had some comment?
Oh, I was just going to say that there's plenty of examples of social media policy, sprinkled throughout, all the municipalities and the state and all of these other places. It wouldn't be hard to bring some examples back to the manager and, the council to look toward if the electronic use policies and, some of the Title II, provisions related to electronic use might need a little bit of updating. So, I mean, that's not hard to do.
Okay.
What's hard to do is what you adopt, and that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. I think it might be also helpful when this comes back, because I anticipate that we won't bring back, this proposed ordinance for 2014. It would be helpful for me, I think, when this comes back, that we would have what we do currently have in code, in the packet, as well as, whether, Title 29 has anything to do. So we have all of those things at our fingertips as we're going through and looking at, the proposals that we come up against, so.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, okay. All right, any further discussion on this? We ready to come out of the committee on the whole, or does somebody else have something they'd like to bring up? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to come out of committee of the whole. No, sorry, can't do that. We can't make motions while we're in the committee of the whole, not even to come out of the committee of the whole.
You can ask for any objections to adjourn out of committee of the whole.
Okay, any objections to coming out of committee of the whole?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we're out of the committee of the whole. What is the wishes of the council? I thought we had a consensus, but maybe we didn't. Go ahead, Councilman Carrington.
So I would ask that we, assign, Mike, our attorney, the task of, going through the photo methods from Belmont, California, and, converting it to Palmer.
Okay, and plus the Title 29 and, the social media, everything that we discussed, and also what we currently have on our books, so we know how that can be incorporated, right? Is that okay, Councilman Carrington?
With appropriate cross-referencing, yes.
Okay.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, this was for policy, not necessarily code language, correct?
What about the maker of the motion? Is it policy or code or whatever? Because I think we'll have to have code in order to adopt the policy, right?
Madam Mayor, are we just giving direction to the attorney right now instead of actually making a motion?
Yeah, and it's titled the code of ethics.
Okay. Councilman Best, does that address your concern?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I don't know that I heard a second to Councilman Carrington.
Well, I will second Mr. Carrington's, direction.
Okay. All right. Discussion then on the motion on the floor regarding sort of turning this over to attorney. City clerk, do you have a question, comment?
I do. So for motion, we don't need necessarily, I guess what I'm asking, postponing no later than the first meeting in September, is this a postponement? Is this, we're just starting all over? So are we moving this information forward in a postponement, or when we come back in September, are we just pretty much gonna start all over again?
I think we'll sort of start over with whatever the attorney presents to us. Is that agreeable to everybody?
Yes, that's my intent.
Yeah,
Perfect, then the intent statement is perfect, thank you.
Okay, all right. Further discussion on the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll then on the motion?
Yes, thank you very much. Councilmember Joe Valerius,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs,
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Berger,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Linda Combs,
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is information memorandum 20-007, committee of the whole for general discussion regarding CARES Act funding. And we also have another motion for the resolution for the public hearing. John, would you and Norma, would you prefer that we do that both at the same time, or that we have the general discussion now?
General discussion, so which one's up to? So we have it on the agenda, it's obviously anything the council wishes, but the intent was that committee of the whole, general discussion, and then that afforded an opportunity at the recess meeting called for any preparations of potential amendments to the resolution. Okay. And then going into the public hearing on the resolution. So that was the initial thought, but of course we can adapt.
Okay, okay. What is the wishes of the council? Did you want to have a committee on the whole to discuss CARES Act funding, or roll it into the item that is under the public hearing?
True. Oh, I see what you're saying now.
Public hearing.
Yeah, the public hearing, okay. Yeah, and it's 9:15, and so if we spend, an hour on this, we still have several other items on the agenda, so.
I follow what you're saying now. Basically, what you discussed under committee of the whole will just be discussed under public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, all right. So, let's see, since we have adopted the agenda, then do I need to have a motion to, make, or,
The committee of the whole, with no motion on the floor to go into committee of the whole, the item just becomes basically. Yeah, it dies, exactly. Move on to the vote.
okay, so has everybody heard that from the city clerk? So now we are under public hearings, page 2, resolution 20-017, authorizing the appropriation of expenditures for the NRSA Relief and Economic Security Act, CARES Act funding. What does the council want a staff report before you go into a public hearing, or do you just want to go into the public hearing? Okay,
Madam Mayor, I'd like a staff report, please.
okay. And how in depth do you want that staff report?
Just a summary of what's been done today.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I think people want to get this meeting done. I will be quick. So first off, this is really an unprecedented, great opportunity for the city of Palmer. Usually when there's money to be given out, state and federal legislators hold on that real tight so they can be the ones awarding this. They've done it differently this time, which allows the city of Palmer to tailor this for home citizenry. However, we will take advantage of this fully. So essentially, it's really two parts. In the first part, we want to pull the trigger on quickly. The second part, we will be coming back to you with additional approvals. Number one, we would like to get out the $3 million for small business CARES Act grants to our small businesses. $350,000 for our nonprofits, and an extra $400,000 for nonprofit competitive grant. We have made this, and Alish spoke to this, we have made this as simple as possible. I think this program fits our folks perfectly. We made it quick and easy, and we have an advantage because we do have business license, so we know the businesses are out there, and businesses do have to have a business license by March of this year. The other thing we have for our businesses is we have documentation on what sales tax are, so we can find out who has been affected and who has not. And we're making it very simple that there is really any brick and mortar business is eligible, not depending on their size. Other communities are cutting us off, so the lower, the smallest tier are SOS, let's change that term, are out of luck. But Palmer folks are not. And we're very happy about this. We have looked at how everybody can qualify, because my fear is that we have two light businesses and one person gets an award, somebody doesn't, just because it's by chance, it's by timing, and that pretty much stinks. So we think anybody who fits this criteria that applies, the money will be available for them. And so it's really non-competitive. It's first come, first served basis. For the reason is, as soon as we get the grants, we want to review it and get the check out to the businesses. So essentially, if you're a Palmer business, you have a business license, you sustain some type of loss, and you have a physical facility, you qualify. And we are only looking at a loss, demonstrated loss of 10% or greater, which we are required to give money away. It has to be some type of business or nonprofit hurt from this. And we can get into questions a little bit more detail on that. But we are ready to go if the city council says go. There is $1 million we're setting aside for city utility substation program. I believe Ms. Combs spoke to this at the last meeting. There is city mitigation expenses and city resiliency and recovery. So I understand the history of the city of Palmer and grants and not following the letter of grants and having a smudge or dollars or fight being paid back. So with these three items, we will be engaging with an external auditor to make sure that our expenditures meet the expectation that this grant money has. There is a caveat though, because they are working on 2 Senate bills that would give us some flexibility in time and flexibility on how we can expend money. This Thursday, Larry Burton, who's the chief of staff for Senator Sullivan, came to the office and sat down with me so I could explain the need for that. He will take that back. So there is a pretty good possibility that we're going to get some flexibility, which will help the city of Palmer with our expectation of losing over $1 million in lost revenue because of sales tax being down. But I want to tell you that city utility substation program will positively affect every person who has utilities, pays utilities to the city of Palmer. City mitigation expenses will be items that we had to expend because of COVID impacted us. Running from hand sanitizer to other items. And then city resiliency and recovery is, there are some things we would like to do. The HVAC system in these buildings are not good. We have somebody coming in and looking at those. We have carpet issues. We have distance issues that we are working on, but we will make sure that those expenditures are eligible prior to us bringing those back to the city council for approval. So this is not the last time you are going to see us. My commitment to you and the citizens is we will not return a dime of this. And so if there's flexibility, let's say the city resiliency and recovery, we don't need that amount of funds, or there's funds going to be left over, we will come to you with another plan on how to benefit our community. We're going to take full advantage. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity we can really have a positive impact in our community. And our folks are hurting, our businesses are hurting, and by golly, we're the ones who get to do this. So I'm really pumped about this. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. Like I said, Ms. Davis and Mr. Hanson really did a great job working through this. We have some nice tools where we can quickly figure out who's eligible and who is not, make it real simple. And our program is much better in City of Wasilla, I can assure you that.
Are we ready to go into the public hearing? Anybody? So, let me go ahead and open up the public hearing on Resolution 20-017, authorizing the appropriation of expenditures for the CARES Act funds. Anyone in the audience is welcome to address this issue before the council. 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing the group. Okay, council, there's no one coming forward. Do you have any objections for me closing the public hearing? Okay, the public hearing is closed. What is the council's wishes?
Madam Mayor, may I make a brief statement?
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Mucci was correct in focusing on the grant documents. I think, as I said earlier, I think they were easily put together and by the state to get this moving forward. No criticism intended, it's just the way it is. This looks like it's really a Title 37 grant document for construction projects tailored to deal with the distribution of funds. So I want to make sure that the council and the mayor and everyone reviews the language in the grants. And one of the issues that the municipal attorney brought up was Article 14 on conflict of interest, the timing provision, since we've been talking about ethical issues this evening. And the question there becomes, who is prohibited from seeking this money? And I don't know if anyone on the council is eligible to do so, but I urge people to look at Article 14, and if you do have questions about that, please give me a call, and we can talk about it. But there are various approaches to how that is to be interpreted. So I wanted to say that, and I also wanted to mention that I know the idea is to get things out quickly and be concise in the application process. But I was happy to hear Mr. Mucci say that the city would be exercising due diligence in the application process and the distribution of the funds. So I thank him for that. And those are my couple of comments, Madam Mayor.
Alrighty. So the 14 that Mike was talking about is a conflict of interest that I had brought up a couple of meetings ago. I'm sorry, somebody, okay, Councilwoman Spring Pulse, go ahead.
I was just going to make a motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Oh, Madam Mayor, are we still having questions?
Well, we've closed the public hearing, and now the issue is presented to you, but before we go have any more discussion, we need to have a motion and a second. So,
Madam Mayor, I'll second.
okay. And now it's been moved and seconded, so now, yes, we are in the point of questions regarding anything that's presented to you, whether it's the application or what the city manager has talked about, or anything else. Councilwoman Burbrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you did just bring up Mr. Gandy did as well, the question of people that work in city government or for the city. What was the determination? I did see on the application that it did ask if you work in any way with the city. Does that preclude you from being eligible for any funds?
Great question to me. Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I think that someone going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, whoever has made the decision, who knows what the answer to that is?
Okay. The short answer to that is there's different views of that section. it's written not very well, it's sort of obtuse. And, there's been clarification asked with respect to that provision, and, rather than guess at what the state was intending by it, it probably would be a good idea to try to seek clarification, and there's other provisions in the grant agreement where you can ask the state for a waiver. I know some municipalities are looking into that, or at least clarification. So I think that is a suggestion I would present to the council with respect to that provision, because of the obtuse nature of its language.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Carrington?
Or to ask the question a completely different way is, my wife has a nonprofit that's based inside the city of Palmer. Does that mean I should excuse myself from voting on this because she could potentially request money on that? She's a question.
That's a very good question. The other question is, and I'm looking for the agreement right now, I'll have to review that. Article 14. That's a very good question about whether you could refuse, if you potentially could receive money, but there's also another question of whether under that section you're eligible.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could address my viewpoint. So we understand what the language says. However, this grant program is designed in a way that if you fall in the category, you are going to get the funds. So it's not a competitive grant, essentially, like how we're doing this. So everybody who falls within this group, how we have it laid out, will be eligible for funds. So it's not competitive to the standpoint where I have to pick and choose between a city council person and another person. It's everybody qualifies. Just like if you gave everybody a tax rebate in the city of Palmer, I believe you would be eligible because you are not treated any differently than anybody else and everybody gets it. That's how we did this. That's why I want to bring in an auditor, because I'm here and we will ask questions. We will not put you in harm's way, or the city of Palmer in harm's way. We will work through that because we have some folks here who are part of our community and they should not be excluded just because you're a public servant. And when you only have 6,482 people in your town, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for this. So we will get clarification first. It's designed in a way where if you fall in a category, you're eligible and we'll get funding. The way we have it set up, it will not be competitive, and that's going to be our argument. That's why we're going to bring an auditor to make sure they get advice, and that we will also get interpretation from the state's attorney general if he ever responds to anything we ever send him.
Yeah, because we're subject to audit, right?
That is correct. In my plan is to ask in advance, right. So we don't do the work and then put the auditor in place where they have to make determination. We already clarified this with the auditor. And the second thing is there might not be so much risk about returning the money, but it will look bad on the manager and the city council if we have an audit finding that we didn't do things right. And that brings up all the questions on that you face all the time. Did I make the right decision? We want to push you in that position, and we won't.
Have joined.
Ready? Other questions? Yeah, Councilwoman Brewer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I brought this up the last time. I see on the application that you, I can hear myself in that, a 10% decrease in your revenue is going to qualify business for this. What is the period that you're looking at for that 10% decline. I know with the PPP, they had a way to work it for businesses that are seasonal businesses, so businesses that rely on tourism, and versus, the amount of money that they bring in March is going to be a lot different than, say, June, July, and August here in Palmer. So have you guys worked that into that?
So yes, we consider that, but in our attempt to get this out, we are asking for applications from July 20th July 20th to July 31. However, we are taking it, if someone is not qualified at this point in time, we have the ability and will set aside and kind of give a second look at that. Because we understand the tourism business. There are some non-brick and mortar that we want to consider, but we want to kind of see the applications in first. We have designed this so we can get people money, we can get businesses money. We're trying to find a way to say yes through the process. So let's say, come July 31, doesn't qualify, but you bring in August and September numbers, and it qualifies under that, we will consider that and find a way of doing it. And we think we have room in our grant funding to be able to do this. So for right now, because of the timing from July 20th to July 31 on accepting applications, we were looking at those months just prior to that. But if you have a friend or somebody in the business, have them put an explanation though with the application. It's just 2 pages. Just put, hey, this is where we were last year. Everything got canceled. We're anticipating a big loss, and this is why. We'll verify that, and we'll see if we get them qualified.
Other comments from council members?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Best.
So I know that we had talked about it before in one of the previous meetings that we're concerned about businesses inside of Palmer city limits, but that there are also entities that exist here out in the borough and in another municipality. And have we addressed all those concerns of, that it's the entity's responsibility to make sure not to be double dipping and all that kind of stuff and limit our exposure?
So yes, so we have a clear line in that they have to be Palmer specific, Palmer, City of Palmer, and we have business license to be able to do so. In our discussions with Matanuska-Susitna Borough, almost forgot that place for a minute. Matanuska-Susitna Borough, they have drawn, they will not be giving any funds to any business inside the city limits, but they have their own program, similar but not as good as ours, for those businesses who fall outside of the city of Palmer. So that's how they are being taken care of. The Matanuska Borough got $37.5 million, and they have the ability to take care of those all around Palmer. So I think everybody, to some extent, is going to be taken care of, but ours is going to be the city of Palmer specific.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other council people? So are we ready to vote, or are you still thinking about it, or? Okay. Ready? Madam Clerk, would you call a roll in on the adoption of resolution number 20-017?
Councilmember Joe Valerius?
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs?
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Berberek?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Linda Combs?
Yes.
Mayor Edmund Jeffries?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item on our agenda.
May I have a quick comment?
Oh, sure.
Thank you very much. chairs on the board of the grants. I'm going to have a letter enclosed, kind of laying out this program from the mayor and city council. This is really a good thing. I really appreciate you saying yes to this. And we will come back with the other things, but I plan on including a letter that I'll write on behalf of the city council and the mayor to each recipient for that. So thank you very much.
The next item on our agenda is resolution number 20-018, accepting and appropriating the U.S. Department of Justice 2020 Cops Hiring Program grant in the amount of $125,000 to fund a new patrol officer position for the Palmer Police Department for a 3-year period from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. Do you want a staff report, or can I open the public hearing? Okay. The public hearing on resolution 20-018 is now open. Anyone can address the council, 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing the group. Council, there is no one coming forward, so with your permission, I will close the public hearing on resolution 20-018. What is the wishes of the council?
Madam Mayor, move to approve the resolution number 20-018.
Okay, I hear 2 motions, so
Give it to Deputy Mayor Combs for first.
and I think then Councilwoman Sabrina Combs was trying to make a motion at the same time.
I'll second it.
Can we make her second?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, anyone have questions? I mean, the city manager did already address this earlier in his reports, but if you'd like, further questions of either him or discussion? I don't hear any, so I guess we're ready, Madam Clerk, to take the roll on, did I hear somebody click? Was somebody trying to say something? No, okay. So this is to adopt resolution 20-018.
Councilmember Joe Valerius,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs,
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Berberich,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Linda Combs,
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries,
Yes.
motion passes.
Alrighty, the next item on our agenda is new business, action memorandum number 20-052, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and purchase insurance coverage for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, per the premium quote submitted by the city's insurance broker, or ISQ Consulting. What is the wishes of the council?
Madam Mayor, move to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve action memorandum number 20-052. Discussion from the council, questions? Amendments to the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to take the roll then on action memorandum 20-052.
Councilmember Joe Valerius,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs,
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Berberich,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Linda Combs,
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. The next item on our agenda now is the introduction of ordinance number 20-007, suspending ordinance number 18-004 pertaining to Palmer Municipal Code, Chapter 8.09, regarding the distribution of single-use disposable plastic shopping bags during the state of emergency order regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. What is the wishes of the council?
Madam Mayor.
Yes?
I believe it was moved for discussion purposes, not, it's
Well, we
not
have,
going to.
we have to have a motion, because if we don't have a motion to accept the introduction, then it will not move forward.
Fair enough,
We have
I
to-
move to, I so moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, the clerk tells me that this is just, the discussion. You want to, the clerk is giving me some specific information, so go ahead.
So this is an introduction to ordinance number 28007, and so the motion on the floor, as stated, was to accept the introduction and set to public hearing. So as we know, when we have a motion on the floor, the deliberation needs to pertain to that motion. So deliberation pertaining to acceptance of this introduction and set to public hearing, with the intent, the public hearing would be on July 28th. So I believe that's, anything else you need me to?
I think that's good, thank you. Okay. Yes, Councilwoman Valeris?
Madam Mayor, I don't know if there's some sort of a staff report. I think it would be really helpful to understand exactly how this came about, who was involved in the discussions. The first I've seen of an email was today, and it was dated yesterday. And so I asked some questions about that, and I actually spoke to one of the managers over at Fred Meyer's, because I was curious about all of this. So if somebody can give us some sort of a rundown of how this has all come about for us in the city, and one other caveat, they are using plastic bags at times, and so right now they're currently in violation of the ordinance.
Yes, I brought this up publicly under my mayor's report 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think there was a reach out from Dean, who is the manager of the Palmer store, probably 2.5 months ago to me, saying that they were having problems getting paper bags. And I said to him, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, you should be getting something from Portland. So I said, okay. And a couple weeks go by, and I didn't get anything from Portland, or hear from him. So I called him, and he said, well, we have temporarily found a substitute supplier. But he said, you still will probably hear something from Portland. And then, let's see, what was last meeting? What date was the last meeting? I think June 23rd. Okay, so the Thursday before June 23rd, the man that's in charge of the Alaska operations called me and said, we are having problems regarding getting paper bags. And he said this Jeffrey Temple, who you have the letter from, would like to set up a phone call with you on Friday, the next day. And so we set it up for 10 o'clock that day. And he called me and he said specifically pretty much what he says in the letter, that they're having problems because of just the paper shortage that we saw in paper towels and toilet paper, that their company policy is still to do the zero hunger, zero waste. Then I looked, and so I said, okay, I will bring it up to the council. And of course, it was too late to get it on the agenda for the June 23rd meeting. So I brought it up in my mayor's report. I gave you the report pretty much, I think, the same thing that I'm telling you now. And then we started working on it. The city manager and the attorney started working and the clerk on how we could do this. And then I gave the information of both Jeffrey and Ted, I think is the gentleman's name, in Anchorage, to the city manager. And then we have the introduction tonight. We got the letter. Maybe the city manager or the city clerk would like to fill in anything
So I did have, a conversation with, Mr. Coakley, a couple weeks ago about this, and I know, City Attorney Gaddy is one who worked on the legislation to kind of change this. I was asked what type of documentation that I received, and so at that point I had none other than the conversation. I requested from Mr. Coakley to get me a letter stating their request for the lifting of this legislation and the reason why, and that's why you have this this letter. I was asked, I requested on Monday, they got us back to me, and that's why you have it.
Yeah, Councilwoman Valeris?
Madam Mayor, so I guess a couple of questions that I have is like, did the city manager get involved right away, or were they just communicating with you? Cause I'm curious, like if somebody approached me, like, should I continue to have a conversation with somebody, or should I refer to a city manager in that regard? And then I'm curious if anybody has given them permission at this point to use plastic bags and not worry about being in violation of the ordinance.
Well, as the mayor, I can bring things forth to the agenda. Council people have to have 2 people to bring things forth for the agenda. After I had the discussions on the phone, I filled in both the clerk and the city manager and Mike, saying that this is something we need to look at, and so then they took it from there. I did write the summary statement on the back, and so that's where we are. But I'm not sure if we are wandering off and having a discussion for other than we're just supposed to have the introduction of the ordinance and set the public hearing. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And, Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Councilman Best.
Just for clarification, since we are a governing body and an ordinance that has been, put in place, would not be suspended by an individual council member or mayor until the body actually, takes action. Is that accurate? This question is to the attorney.
Yeah, right, yeah. The people, I can bring things up to the agenda as well as 2 council people can. But yeah, we cannot, there isn't anybody on the council or contracted employee that can suspend anything that's in code. So, does that answer your question? Mike, did you have further discussion?
Yeah, just a quick point. Councilmember Best is correct. The council is a legislative body. The council includes the mayor, and there's a rule in municipal law we call the rule of equal dignity, and that means if there's an ordinance that is to be amended or repealed, whatever the case may be, we need to have another ordinance. A red zone can affect a red zone, and a motion can affect a motion. So that's sort of the basic municipal law sort of concept. And you are constitutionally in Title 29 and in the Code and Charter the legislative body, and you can't legislate individually without the group passing the measure by majority votes.
Right, and of course that has to be publicly noticed, and that's the reason that, you know, I couldn't bring it up to discuss on June 23rd. So, Councilwoman Sabrina Combs, I think you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is at risk of going off topic here, but when I asked the manager at Fred Meyer why they were giving me plastic bags with my quick list order, they stated it was because the mayor said they didn't have to abide by it. So just for your clarification, that is something they are saying. And it's not if it's not true, then it's definitely something that should be corrected, because they are using that as the impetus for giving out plastic bags right now.
Okay. No, I explained very fully to Jeffrey, Ted, and Dean that we had to go through the public process, and you know, it had to be the council's decision. We had to probably and properly notify the changes, and I'll reach out to Dean tomorrow. Was it Dean you talked to?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Councilwoman Brewer?
So the Fred Meyer is in violation of our ordinance, what's the step there?
Well, I think we need to keep it germane to just the introduction of this ordinance. That can be a question you can bring up under council comments or.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, we need to keep it just germane to this. Okay, any other things remaining to the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you take the vote then on ordinance 20-0007?
Councilmember Javalarius,
And this is to clarify that it's informational, correct?
this motion, voting yes, says that you are accepting the introduction and setting it to public hearing on July 28th. So we would have a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, yes, okay. Councilmember Sabrina Combs,
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Gerber,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Linda Combs,
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ready? Madam Clerk, record of items placed on the table.
We had public testimony tonight, and then the letter from Fred Meyer.
And what about the letter from this lady regarding masks? Was that?
Yeah, that's the public testimony. I just didn't
that's
have it in front of me.
okay.
Madam Mayor, what's the name for the record?
Jacqueline Goldforth?
Jacqueline Goldberg. That was a public testimony letter.
Okay, that's what you're talking about.
Yes, thank you.
Alrighty, good. Alrighty, the next item on our agenda is audience participation. Audience participation is now open.
I know. This time I won't ruin the clock timer, hopefully. Somehow I got it quit working on.
You want me to, Phyllis wanted to position certain.
I know. Okay.
My name is Mike Valesky with 325 East Farming Avenue, here resident in Palmer, Alaska. I was interested in listening to the ethics discussion. I thought I would just put a couple of points here. It was my privilege back in the day to spend 4 years as chair of the Mercer Regional Hospital Ethics Committee, which was a very interesting group made up of physicians and others that dealt with the issues of biomedical ethics. I have to say to you that the ethics discussion you are embarking upon is a pathway to many dragons. It was my experience over years that I would bring in a professional ethicist, Providence Hospital, and the physician who was the ethicist. That was her job, and she helped as well as bringing in a philosopher who was specialist in ethics to set a ground rule about just what do we mean by asking the simple question that we asked of all of you. What does ethics mean? And that's why I say it's a very interesting and complicated topic. But to sum it up, I think there are two aspects of this that are usually understood. One is that ethics deals with personal ethics, process, what you do, for example, as individuals in the body. And then the second one is the policies that the body has, which are ethical. You can ask the question, of your intentions of operating as a body, and there's also the recommendations for individuals. All of the policy references that you've already made, they're pieces that are out there. But as Lucy, your manager, has pointed out, you have a lot of things to look at. This is a very important issue, how moral behavior and political behavior, and that's true. But I think if you're aspirational, like saying these are the things that we stand for, the school board has done the same kind of thing. I think you might have a good start, and you can reference it and understand it. That's all I need to say. Thank you very much.
We'll give you another minute if you should say something.
Well, one more minute would be to say that the borough, and Ms. Lucy is aware of it, has a fairly extensive, had a board directed at ethics. But I can tell you, because I've been involved in one of the issues there, that it took well over a year to settle. This is one specific issue for one person, one situation. And sometimes that's required. But if you're moving into being more extensive than you are now with policy references, et cetera, then there's a heavy cost in terms of what you have to have in place to make it happen. That's my impression. Sometimes that's necessary, but I would just caution you, because if you're aspirational, you say this is what we wish to be, this is the way we want to operate, and we ask individuals who are not watching over all the time as members of our body to be that way. And lastly, I would say that, sunlight is one of the greatest disinfectants, and you have transparency. Everything you do is transparent. If you do that, then that becomes a very easy thing. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Seeing no one else come forward, audience participation is now closed. Okay, so now council comments. I'll just start on the screen that I see you, Councilwoman Sabrina Coles.
My screen is in a different order. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say thank you to Palmer Chamber, Alish, and Randy and Kaylee who were running around Palmer all weekend, and it was amazing. There were so many people out and about being safe. Lots of masks at the big summer art and garden fair. I think there was a booth that gave away over 300 free masks to folks, so that was really amazing to see. I had the joy and sadness of attending Pam Lewis's memorial service this weekend at Government Peak, and there was a really nice showing by the citizens of Palmer, and she passed away last year, but it was really nice to finally be able to celebrate her life. And then last, I just wanted to inform the city council that I did step down from the Matthew Miners Board of Directors after about 10 years on that board. So it's not really, it's kind of reporting a non-conflict of interest, I guess. So that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Councilwoman Berber, you're next on my screen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have any comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Valerius.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to thank the Palmer Chamber for the nice events that they put on over the weekend. It seemed really well organized, and Sam at the museum did a really great job. And Mr. Murphy, thanks so much in working with Mr. Hanson and Ms. Davis. Like, you guys have really gotten some things done pretty quickly, which is really cool. So thank you. That's really nice. And I think that's all I got. I hope everybody has a great 2 weeks. Thank you.
Alrighty, I see Steve's iPad there, so it must be Councilman Carrington.
Yes, ma'am. I do want to thank AH for coming and giving us our monthly report. I appreciate not just tonight, but, coming on a regular basis. Really good to kind of hear how, some of the changes are doing and about private things, et cetera. Thank you.
Best?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've gotten to be out and about town and, seeing a lot of folks out there. It's tentative at best, people are concerned, and businesses are still striving to keep the doors open. I'd just like to ask everybody to continue to give grace, to each other, to understand, that there's many things that we don't know about each other, as we're dealing with our daily lives, and that we continue to, be a community that cares for each other, so I appreciate it.
And Deputy Mayor Combs?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too, would like to thank, Mr. Moosey and especially, Mr. Hanson and Gina as well. I dealt with, a couple phone calls from them, and got good information, good flow of information back and forth over the CARES, funding, and I'm just so proud of the way the city of Palmer is handling that. They're doing it in a thoughtful manner that will make a huge difference to so many people. I agree with, Councilmember Best. One of the best things that we can do is remember everybody that we, come in contact with these days. Their journeys have all been changed. All of us have, we embarked on one journey, January 1st of this year, and all of us have ended up on different journeys, through circumstances. So, Palmer, as usual, exudes, quite a bit of confidence, because, and they should, because they've done this before. They've come through tough times. We have an abundance of wonderful people that we represent. So, thank you for, a good, well-run meeting, and we'll talk to everybody in a couple weeks. Oh, and don't forget, get that information into the mayor. We want to have a terrific, first time ever, just live through your Facebook page, Palmer Pride.
Yep, thank you. Ready? With that, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Good night, everybody.